Yeah. A very happy Independence Day to all of you. And outset, I thank Dr. Prabhadikari Madam for giving me this privileged opportunity. And I had such privileged opportunity to work with Madam in such courses being conducted a few years back. In fact, it was offline, and that was a very impactful course, and I hope the same is continuing now. I am also privileged to be with the international faculty for this unique program, Dr. Johan Becker and Dr. Cordula. A very good morning to all, sir. Today I will share my views on constipation and diarrhea, the two important symptoms that we come across in senior citizens, elderly population who are in the terminal illness. I bring greetings to you from the geriatric clinic. Way back we started in 2007, and that's what, Madam. Thank you for your kind words of introduction. We also have an immunization clinic exclusively for older people in our hospital, and we have adopted a village wherein we provide health services to the older people every month on fourth Sunday. So with this background, just a constipation is a very, very important symptom. Most of the time, the older people don't inform, or they'll end up with us in the state of delirium. And one of the commonest cause of delirium in elderly population we come across is constipation. And that is what we all should keep in mind. It is a very common, uncomfortable symptom. Most of the older people don't feel like to inform, that they feel that I should not talk this thing. And it is a more common in terminally ill and cancer and other causes as well. So as a physician, we get all sorts of patients with constipation. It can be an acute onset. Most of the time now, what I'm seeing in my clinical practice is patients with multiple myeloma, patients with malignancy, Parkinsonism, they are rushing, they are brought in the emergency state to the hospital where they are not able to pass stools. Since morning they have been trying. And yes, madam.
The slides are not moving, I think.
Okay.
So it's in the first slide only. Maybe you'll have to pick up one by one and move, or go to read view.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, now it's C. Yeah.
Yes, I think we'll keep it read view.
Yeah.
So the more common in terminally ill, cancer and other causes. Most of the times, elderly people living with cancer, they are rushed to the hospital only because they are feeling so distressed, agitated, that they are having impacted stools or the heart stools. And basically, it is a symptom of various disorders that we will know what are the common causes. And as a palliative care physician and geriatric physician, any patient comes with constipation, let's not blame only opioids. There are many other causes that can lead to constipation. So that is what we will discuss now in the next 15 minutes. So defining constipation and diarrhea is most of the time, many associates have defined their own definitions. So some objective and some subjective. So it is objectively defined as a passage of stool infrequently or with difficulty. And recently in 2015, the National Institute of Healthcare Excellence defined a symptom-based disorder in which defecation is unsatisfactory because of infrequent stools, difficulty passing stools, and or the sensation of incomplete bowel emptying. All these can be considered as a constipation for a clinicians. So I like to quote Robert McCrum way back in 90s. What he said was, besides death, constipation is the biggest fear in the hospitals, I unquote. So most of the senior physicians may agree with this, because those elderly persons who are bedridden or admitted in emergency after not passing stools for 3 or 4 days, that is the most uncomfortable thing that they will be having. And they fear that because there are no senior friendly toilets or restrooms for them, and they are not used for using the bedpans. So all this creates them not to attain the natural call. So they avoid doing that. Now, the Rome 4 classification, which has come recently.
Hello, you're putting it.
Yes, madam. So Rome 4 classifies constipation is present if a person has experience of more than 2 of the following and at least 12 weeks in the last 12 months. So this is the Rome criteria for classification of constipation as well as in the irritable bowel syndrome. So straining in more than half of all defecations, lumpy or the hard stools in more than a quarter of all defecations, sensations of incomplete evacuation in more than half of the defecations, sensation of anorectal obstruction or blockage in more than half of the defecations, and manual manures. This is a very important thing we come across, and we from the older people, especially from villages. I will share one case. Then the broil frequency of less than 3 per week. So this is a recent classification of the Rome 4 to mention what constipation exactly means for various people, and a clinician should know about that. Okay, so what happens here is I just wanted to is it visible now? Is screen visible? The impact of the constipation is, it is one of the most distressing symptoms and of bowel obstruction, and it suggests sometimes bowel obstruction, and it can lead to hernia. And in older people, it can precipitate heart failure and angina. So this has to be avoided in most of the elderly population, because they will be having comorbidities of ischemic heart disease. Constipation leads to bleeding per rectum or fissure in ano. This is another pain. So because of pain in the anal region, they start eating less. So what I feel is constipation begets constipation. So that patients are finding difficulty in passing stools, so they eat less on the other end. So this leads to decreased food intake and all nutritional disorders. So self-manual evacuation of the stools is commonly seen nowadays. The older people comes and tells in our clinic that I myself evacuate my stools with the fingers. So that much is the difficulty I face with the constipation. So that is what we must understand, and where we should go ahead after this discussion. So we had a patient, Mr. X, 78 years old, with a Parkinsonism and had constipation. We all know that is commonest manifestation. So at times the symptom is so distressing that he swallows whole of the bottle of lactulose in one go out of desperation. And the problem comes the next day, when he keeps on passing stools for next 24 hours across the house. And the caregivers will get fed up with this behavior, and they have tried n number of things that can help to control this. But every month, at least once, the relatives used to come to me and say that, sir, this is what is happening in my home. He passes stools just all over the house, and it becomes very difficult for him. So constipation has an very deep impact for the even caregivers. Now, causes. Looking at the causes, the commonest cause is a drug. In a palliative care medicine and a geriatric practice, we always try, any new symptom comes, look at the drugs. Has the drug, a new drug added, is causing these symptoms? So opioid analgesics, tricyclic antidepressants, anticholinergic drugs, antipsychotics, antihistamine, anti-Parkinsonian drug. Parkinson itself causes constipation, as well as the drug used for that. NSAID is very common. Iron supplementation, calcium antagonist, diuretics. So all why we are talking about this is because any drug is potential to produce constipation in elderly population. And second is, elderly people are having multiple comorbidities, so they are likely to be on at least 2 or 3 of these drugs, and on the counter drugs that they keep purchasing to avoid constipation. The other causes like malignancy, intestinal obstruction, hypercalcemia can produce constipation. Of course, the comorbidity like hypothyroidism is one of the commonest condition, diabetes, colitis, and Parkinsonism. And the general conditions in a terminally ill patient, or the person who is diagnosed having malignancy, and the older people, dehydration is one of the commonest cause. Depression, they being inactive, that's another condition that cause that leads to constipation, and low fiber intake. So the commonly available drugs like Digene gel and these all contains calcium, magnesium, aluminum. So these should be avoided in our practice, because it is profound known cause it produces constipation. Now, how to approach a older person in palliative care with constipation? So complete documentation of medical history is mandatory, because we may miss certain surgeries that have been done in the past, or the drugs which is taking on the counter or without being giving importance. Complete physical examination is mandatory, and of course, per rectal examination is must in all the patients who complains with the difficulty in passing stools. And it is recommended that equal attention is paid to the optimized toileting. We see that older people, when admitted in a general wards, some people, they are not used to using even Indian style toilets. Forget commodes. Older people coming from villages, they don't know how to use commodes, and they don't even know Indian use of Indian toilets. They are very much used to going outside in their field. So optimized toileting, lifestyle modifications, adjustment of the activity levels, and pharmacological management has to be given due attention in a patient receiving palliative care, so as to prevent constipation in them. So again, I just telling you, they can present with acute and chronic. So of late, I am getting the patients with acute onset, acute pain, acute severe discomfort, delirium, and just following enema, they are fine. And symptoms, they can present to you with a pain on defecation, bloating, abdominal pain, cramping, all because due to reduced consumption of water. Impacted stools can produce urinary incontinence. That is another important symptom that we come across in the older people. And fecal impaction sometimes mimics diarrhea. This is very, very important condition that we all must know. So mandatorily, per rectal examination is must in all the patients complaining with rectal symptoms. So this patient, a 70-year-old male with multiple myeloma, had presented with a severe pain in the anal region, and desperate to get rid of the stools. So this all happened in the 2 days. He was so desperate, he was not eating food, and he was taking laxative abuse, and he was non-allopathic medicines also he was taking. Per rectal examination revealed very hard stools and impacted stools. And immediately when he received enema, he was so relieved of his symptoms, and he was very happy. So that is how the constipation has an impact on the quality of life. The Bristol stool chart had come way back in 1997, just to know from the caregivers that how the consistency of stool looks like, because the simple tool that can help patients and or relatives to describe the stool consistency to the clinician. So sometimes relatives have seen, and sometimes they are not comfortable in answering. So, but we can show this photograph to them, and just because the older person may not have seen how his tool look like, but it because of these things, this tool has not taken much importance in clinical scenario. But those who are in research, they can youngsters, they can still try to know type of stools that they have, and that is how Bristol stool chart defines it in the 7 types of stools. That is starting from hard lumps like nuts to the watery and no solid pieces. So this is how we can come across to know what type of problem he is having. Then what investigations we should do in a patient coming with constipation? Erect abdominal X-ray is mandatory in all older people coming with malignancies and constipation, because we may find some rare causes and the common causes in them. Ultrasound abdominal pelvis will show you the whole gut is flooded with stools, hard stools, and that's how we can come to know the cause also, whether the intestinal obstruction is there or a mass per rectum. And serum calcium level should be done, because it is known to produce constipation. Now, coming to the treatment, we have 2 sets of drugs for treating constipation. One is the stool softeners, and second is the stimulants. Stool softeners are Isbagula, so it increases stool volume and bacterial growth. The second stool softener is doctor said sodium. It increases water penetration of the stools. It acts as surfactant. Lactulose, which is commonly used now by the clinicians, and it's a very good result, we'll tell you, and it retains water in the gut. And magnesium hydroxide, it acts as osmotic and also stimulate peristalsis. So these are the 4 drugs as a stool softeners available to treat constipation. And there's also stimulant. Way back we from a student life, we Dulcolax tablet. So now it is become Gerbisa. The Dulcolax has become Gerbisa, and basic content of it is a bisacodyl. 5 to 10 milligrams should be given in the night. It stimulates basically the peristalsis. So which one to use is a very challenging in the clinical scenario. Some patients, when we prescribe bisacodyl, they're very happy. In one go, it goes out, sir, we are very happy, and morning 6 o'clock, it wakes me up, and I'm feeling happy. For some, it is not. they say that I have to go 3 to 4 times to clear my bowels. So it all depends upon the trial and error, which drug you want to use and which drug fits to that patient. So apart from these drugs, what we can do, despite that, if the constipation persists, we can go for use of suppository. That is, again, the Biscodil suppositories are available in the market, and glycerol suppositories also are available in the market. So that is also gives a good benefit for the older people. Now, there are some thing mentioning that how we use commodes. So that is what the picture shows, that use a stool when using the commode, so that it makes the rectum straight and allow the passage of stools properly. So what we think for elder people, especially those who are bedridden or those who are restricted activities, so we can think of keeping one bedside toilet or private toilet with the curtains by the side, and because this can have an ease of access, and it can provide a private toilet for him. And most of the older people have seen they refuse for bedpan and diapers. This is problem for the caregivers, and they just pass stools wherever they feel, and they create more problem for the caregivers. So this is what we should consider in the older people. Now, coming to the practical points, which laxative is superior among all those things? So all laxatives, softeners and stimulants, they are all equally superior. As I told you, we have to give a trial and error. As such, there is no evidence in the literature to say this one is superior. So I am comfortable with use of lactulose in some patients, and in some patients Biscodil. It goes by the experience of the treating physician. Now, can I combine 2 laxatives? Yes, you can combine 2 laxatives as the disease progresses, and only our aim is to help the person evacuate the stools regularly so that he can eat the food properly. And can we prescribe prokinetics plus antispasmodics? The answer is no. Never try to put the prokinetics as well as antispasmodic in the same patient. That will create more problem. Now, can we use bulk performing agents if person is not consuming adequate fluids? The answer is no, because we cannot use bulking agents if the person is not taking adequate fluid, because it will lead to a gelatinous mass and precipitates again obstruction and further leads to again constipation. So we should not use stool bulking agents if the person is not taking adequately. Now, can we use laxatives as a prophylaxis? The answer is yes, we should use, because we need not wait for the, if you know that morphine is bound to produce constipation, it should be accompanied with the laxatives, because we don't want to harm the patient and produce a low quality of life in them. So laxatives can be used as a prophylaxis. The role of alternative medicines. So there are so many available now, Kayamchuram and Easygo, many are there. So most of the senior citizens or elderly patients, they come with a box that I am using this, and whenever I take this, I feel my stools are fine. So we just tell them to continue this, because if he's fine with this, let him continue with whatever way that he gets an easy stool passage. Okay, so the take-home message as far as constipation is concerned is I feel we should not blame opioids solely, because there are many other conditions that can lead to constipation. Of course, in a study, they found that 60% of the people attending palliative care, they had constipation, and those are not on opioids. So still, we should keep in mind that only opioids will not produce constipation. There are many other conditions. Use of laxatives as a prophylaxis is definitely a need of our. We should not wait for constipation to set in. And constipation in palliative care is primarily to be believed and relieved rather than defined. Let us not waste our time or arguing that, oh, this is not constipation. If he is having problem with defecation, better to understand what it is, and we have to relieve it. We have to believe it and relieve it. So that improves the quality of life in palliative care. And most importantly, the older people in terminal illness, they should be provided the food that he likes most. That is very, very important. Otherwise, you're giving the same old food every day, they don't feel like eating. So if you ask him what food he wants, so that those food should be given, so that they can have a good strength as well, nutritious income, as well as the smooth bowel. And create formidable environment for passing stools. This is very important. If you have a 5-star hospital, all the facilities with 5-star, but the person is from the village and doesn't know how to use commode, then it doesn't define his environment for him. So they are not used for bedpan because we don't have privacy to use bedpans in the beds. So we had to create a formal environment for passing stools that will help problem in the patients. So coming to diarrhea, it is a passage of frequent loose stools with urgency, or passage of more than 3 unformed stools within 24-hour period. So again, diarrhea can be acute or chronic. So most of the in palliative care setup, it will be usually chronic. It will be ongoing for months together till the patient survives. So we had one 80-year-old lady. She presented with loose stools of 3 months duration. Every day, 7 to 8 times she used to pass stools with small quantities. And she had consulted various clinicians before, and she was being tried n number of antibiotics. And every consultant see her put on antibiotic and send. When she came to our geriatric clinic, she was, of course, we followed this protocol. We examined thoroughly, and a simple PR examination was done, which was not done by anybody else. It revealed a mass per rectum. We immediately called a surgeon and evaluated. He also confirmed that, yes, there is a mass in the rectum, and CT scan of abdomen revealed a huge 8 by 16 size growth in the rectum. And so she was diagnosed having C.A. rectum, and we initiated a palliative care for her. But her presentation was like a loose motion for 2 months. So this is how they present to you. And as a geriatric physician, we must be aware what can be the causes. The other causes are infection and too much laxatives. This is the opposite side. I'm talking about constipation and diarrhea because they keep on consuming more laxatives to ensure that they have stools, and they'll end up with diarrhea. And some NSAIDs can also produce constipation as well as diarrhea. Iron preparations are known, either of the one. Antibiotics, plenty of antibiotics are known to produce diarrhea. Especially the patient with palliative care, the radiotherapy involving abdomen and pelvis, usually during the 2nd week onwards, they start developing loose motion. So one of the side effects of radiotherapy is diarrhea. We should be aware. And carcinoma pancreas and bronchogenic carcinoma producing VIP syndrome, they all can lead to diarrhea, and they can present to us with diarrhea. Fecal impaction is very common. That is what the lady had. So celiac basis blockade, which we give for as a pain management, it can produce profuse watery diarrhea. Total colectomy, nosocomial infections. The patient is for a long time in the hospital, can produce diarrhea. And any surgical procedures on intestine is bound to produce diarrhea for certain period of time unless the intestine settles for the regular food and the dose of the drugs. So how to approach this patient with diarrhea? So we should ask the frequency, nature of the stools, and most of the times these patients will come with alternating diarrhea and constipation. So he may be having constipation and taking lactulose, and when he develops diarrhea, he comes with only diarrhea. So we cannot just treat with diarrhea. We have to go in depth about the history, any drugs he's taking which I have mentioned in the list of the drugs that produce diarrhea. Profuse watery stools always suggested colonic diarrhea. Pale offensive stools, it suggests steatorrhea. And we have to do a per rectal examination and per abdominal examination in all these patients who come present with a diarrhea. What investigations we like to do? There is an erect abdomen is a very important X-ray tool we should never ignore, and gives a lot of information from paralytic ileus, intestinal obstruction to the mass and loaded rectum. All can be seen on erect abdomen. Ultrasound abdomen will tell us which likely cause. Stool culture should be done. Stool osmolality can be calculated if our laboratory is equipped. Serum electrolytes to know electrolyte disturbances. Of course, renal function and liver function test, because there's a long-standing diarrhea can lead to electrolyte disturbances. Now, how to treat? Most of the times, osmotic diarrhea, if we just stop all the drugs that he's been taking and give a trial for 24 hours, and if the diarrhea stops, then it is obviously the medication or the disease that is producing. We can conclude that. Antibiotics, as per the local pattern, we should use. It depends, varies from the hospital and the ICU to ICU, from where they study the antimicrobial pattern in their ICU. Anti-secretory drugs has a good role, and I have found it very useful in my practice. Racedotril, it comes in capsule AD 100. If it is secretory diarrhea, yes, it gives a very good sense of relief for the patients, and because of this, they improve their appetite and intake also. In the diarrhea that is not responding to most of the drugs, loperamide can be used in these patients. It is recommended especially in the end of life care. And of course, correction of dehydration, oral fluids should be promoted in these patients of diarrhea. So diarrhea is also an important discomforting symptom among the elderly population with terminal illness. Drugs and interventions are common cause rather than the malignancies. So we should be aware that any new drug added or any intervention that is it the cause for diarrhea. And of course, as a clinician, we should avoid using antibiotics for all the diarrheas unless there is an we have to rule out osmotic and secretory diarrhea, and then we should think of using antibiotics, because again it may produce further diarrhea. So thank you for patience, and it's open for questioning. Any questions or anything anybody wants to add their experiences? It's most of it.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Anand, for a wonderful presentation. It was to the point and crisp. At the same time, you have given them very good carry-home messages. Post-COVID, actually, or post-vaccination, we are seeing quite a lot of patients developing constipation, severe constipation with obstruction. We don't know the mechanism. Maybe there is some colonic inflammation or something like that, because some ultrasound, CT scans have shown edema of the colon. And several have ended up with such severe constipation that you have to, unless you manually evacuate it and then use laxative, it is not relieved. Many of them, as you said, sometimes because of constipation, they present with spurious diarrhea, and people will be treating with anti-diarrheal agents, and then it becomes like a bigger problem. So rectal examination is one thing we must always do, whether it is diarrhea or constipation, and feel whether there is a hard fecal mass sitting there. Then only we should go and prescribe. It doesn't happen in clinical practice, because doctor thinks nurse will do. Nurse will not do, because today's nursing does not include manual evacuation of the rectum. They think it's too, they will tell Akka. Akka is not trained to do this kind of work. But however, in my ward, I have trained Akka to do, because she is the one observing motion, color, everything. She will give me a feedback. She will tell me whether there is a perianal intertrigo or candidal infection. And because of that, the patient is not passing motion. So I think that level of people will have to train, because they are doing that job. And if they are well trained, they know exactly whether it's constipation, spurious diarrhea, everything.
Yeah. Yes, madam. I agree that the IAs are doing very good. They report it. Yes, sir, she has passed stools. It was yellow color or black color, and quantity also they met, and how many hard stool balls they have removed, they also count and tell. That's the right thing, madam. The IAs play important role in this, and I agree with you that even now that many are not aware how to give an soap enema. So it has become obscure now, giving a soap water enema. So, and regarding COVID, I think I will also start looking into it. Thanks for the input. My PG was also joined just for my lecture, Dr. Santosh. So I think we'll look into it for in our side also, whether the patients with COVID and vaccines those have received, are they developing this constipation? Any questions, any clarifications? Or anybody wish to share their experiences?
Sir, I have a question, sir.
Go ahead.
I'm a gynecologist, sir. I do private practice. So of late, I've been getting a few elderly patients with constipation, especially. So regarding the treatment aspect, when is it good to suggest Dufelac, that is laxative, and when is it the Bisacodyl, sir? Is there any indication particularly, like, because when I prescribed Dufelac, they were not relieved and they came back. and ultimately enema helped. But is there a particular indication I wanted to know?
There is a contraindication for not using stimulants. Rather, I can tell. So we should not use bisacodyl or stimulant in intestinal obstruction, or if the patient is having impacted stools, and if he is having atonia of the intestine. So again, as I mentioned, madam, it is again subjective to the patient. So if some patients feel very comfortable with lactulose, some patients feel very comfortable with the bisacodyl. I have a set of patients who say bisacodyl has helped me to wake up correctly at 6 o'clock in the morning because he has to get up to pass stools. So in some people, lactulose may help, may not help. So there is no clear-cut indication that which laxative should be used in which condition, especially in the elderly population, because the other conditions like anticholinergic drugs or the dehydration we have to address. Second is, at least we should not use stimulants in the patient who are having GI infection, GI tumors, or paralytic ileus.
Okay, sir.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you, sir.
The Dulcolax as suppository, if there is stool impaction, it will help. If a hard stool, but orally you should not give. Yeah, as suppository is a good option.
It's a very good drug, especially in the pediatric practice.
Number of days.
Yes, ma'am.
One suppository will relieve, and further your lactulose will work, or any other oral milder laxative will work. So,
and acceptance from older people for suppository is very good. So they accept it instead of enema. They will accept the suppositories.
Thank you, Dr. Anand.
Thank you, madam. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Yeah.
Always to be with you anytime. So thank you all the participants.
We want to do more in our program.
Anytime, madam. And wish you all the best for
authentic geriatric department. Definitely for geriatric workshop also will invite you.
Sure.
Thank you.
All the best to all the participants, and we hope for them to be in faculty next time.
Yes.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We welcome Dr. Uma Kulkarni, who has joined us, and she takes a wonderful session on issues in end-of-life care. Mainly, she'll touch upon ethical issues that we as doctors go through.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And I have always learned a lot before coming to this session, and I learned much more after discussion with everyone during these sessions on ethical issues in end-of-life care. So each time I come here, I was just trying to recollect last 2 or 3 years when I have come for these lectures on end-of-life issues and ethical issues in the end-of-life care. I've always had one added personal experience in my close family or someone very close to me, and then I have really got enriched by the experience, and I'm trying to add that experience